Diddy Kong Racing, a classic from the era of the N64. Praised at the time for its graphics and gameplay, it stands as the N64's 8th best-selling game and remains my favorite racing game to this day. But one thing about this game that I feel has been neglected over the years is its colorful and quirky cast. I mean, just look at them. Most of these guys don't even show up outside this game, and even if you've played it, you probably still don't know their story. And trust me when I say these characters are more than what they seem. Hello everyone, and welcome to Silver Rooster, where today we're talking about Diddy Kong and his mostly forgotten friends. Starting of course with Diddy Kong himself. We all know Diddy. He was created by Rare so Donkey Kong could have a player too, later got his own adventure, became a loved character in his own right, and now he's got a racing game. But why is Diddy Kong Racing? Well, that's actually a strange story in of itself. You see, Diddy Kong Racing wasn't a Diddy-centered game until late into development. I mean, the game was basically finished before he was added. So how did Diddy become the face of this game? Well, a different Rare title, and the greatest game ever made, Banjo-Kazooie, was supposed to be the big 1997 holiday release, but you can't rush perfection, so it got delayed to the following summer. So suddenly, Rare's holiday release had to be the only other game they had readily available, and that game was Pro-Am 64, starring Timber the Tiger, which was an indirect update to 1987's RC Pro-Am. Now, up until this script, I had no idea what RC Pro-Am was, which was the exact problem Rare faced. They didn't feel the brand was recognizable enough to grab people's attention, so they rebranded the game using Diddy Kong. The Rare team then clocked in overtime to change details in the game to better attach it to the new IP, and we got Diddy Kong Racing as a result. That's right, Diddy is only here for brand recognition, with the in-game reason being he's racing to help his friend Timber fight off the evil space ham Whizpig, because Whizpig took over Timber's island. So yeah, Diddy Kong, despite being the title character, doesn't actually have a special role to play in the story. His role is exactly what any other character's is. They're all here to help Timber. Truthfully, Timber actually better fits the mold of main character. But you want to know what Diddy would have been the true main character in? The cancelled GameCube sequel, Diddy Kong Racing Adventure. Now, if you're well versed in the many cancelled Rare games, you might be thinking I'm talking about Donkey Kong Racing. But this is an entirely different game. Diddy Kong Racing Adventure was a game being developed in 2004 that no one knew existed until 2016, when a playable prototype was found. And well, there's absolutely nothing to do in it, but it's still wild that this could have been a thing. To give a quick rundown of the plot for you, while Diddy Kong was away on Timber Island, Whizpig returned wanting revenge. Teaming up with the Kremlings, Whizpig started turning Donkey Kong Island, called Congo Island in the script for some reason, into a giant raceway, while the Kremlings began capturing different Kongs. When Diddy returned home, he would find the Kremlings bulldozing the forest. Diddy would then call the cast of the first game, and a few new racers, to help take back the island. And that's really about it. However, there is an earlier version of this script I'd like to share. It's essentially the same plot, but instead of Whizpig, it had a new villain, a white rhino named Baron Von Snort. And Baron Von Snort has almost nothing to do with the topic of this video. I just wanted a reason to say that name. Now let's move on to the original main character of Diddy Kong Racing, Timber the Tiger. Timber is the one who calls all the other racers to Timber Island to help him defeat Whizpig. Well, everyone except for Banjo and Conker. Apparently they're Diddy's friends. Oh, and Crunch, who's nobody's friend, but more on him later. Anywho, despite it being called Timber Island, Timber doesn't actually own the island, his parents do. And they left Timber in charge while they were visiting their family friends, the Kongs. Which Kongs? I don't know, it's not important. What is important is that leaving Timber in charge was a bad idea because he immediately lost control of the island to Whizpig. And now everyone needs to help kick Whizpig off the island so Timber doesn't get in trouble with his parents. That's basically the plot of the game. But Timber was originally supposed to be a bigger character overall. Like I said earlier, before Rare slapped Diddy on the title, the game was called Pro-Am 64 and starred Timber as the lead. Despite being replaced by someone with more brand recognition, it seems Rare still had a fondness for the Tiger, centering the story of Diddy Kong Racing around him. But did you know that much like Banjo and Conker, Timber was supposed to star in his own game? A 3D adventure game for the N64 known as Dinosaur Planet, with gameplay similar to that of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Timber was going to be a time traveler, exploring this prehistoric world. However, Timber would again have his game hijacked by another Nintendo character, as Dinosaur Planet would go through many changes, eventually becoming Star Fox Adventures. Yeah, I bet you didn't see that one coming. This effectively destroyed any chance Timber would have at getting his own game. Unless we want to count Timber's Balloon Pop, which was just a flash game Nintendo made to help promote Diddy Kong Racing's Nintendo DS remake. But I don't count that, Fox McCloud. I'll never forget what you did to Timber. It's a safe bet Timber will never have his own true adventure. As I'm sure we all know, in 2002, Rare in its entirety was purchased by Microsoft. And thus, Timber, as an IP, is now owned by Microsoft. And I can't imagine Microsoft has any plans for the Tiger. Heck, it's possible they don't even remember that they own the rights to basically any character in this game that isn't Diddy. Some of these characters were, of course, spared Timber's fate and actually did manage to get their own games. Of course, I'm talking about Banjo and Conker, who both debuted in this game before getting their own adventure. Let's start with my main guy, Banjo, star of my favorite game, Banjo-Kazooie, which was followed up by an awesome sequel, Banjo-Tooie, a spin-off game on Game Boy Advance, Banjo Pilot, and an adventure on Game Boy Advance, Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge, which is a canon game, by the way. Then he got a game I don't care to talk about on the 360, then he disappeared for over a decade, now he's back as a playable fighter in Smash. You get the idea, Banjo's hype and needs more recognition. One last thing I can leave you with is, according to the Diddy Kong Racing manual, the reason Kazooie isn't in this game is because Banjo hasn't met her yet, which is weird to me as I was under the impression they were longtime friends, but apparently they became lifetime friends after Diddy Kong Racing. Time to talk about the other character who managed to get his own game, Conker the Squirrel. Now, if you know Conker, it's most likely from 2001's Conker's Bad Fur Day for the N64. And if that's the case, you're probably wondering how this alcoholic menace to society ended up in a kid-friendly racing game. Well, at the time, it was planned for Conker to have a family-friendly game titled Conker's Quest. Pretty straightforward. I like it. In fact, his game was supposed to come out before Banjo's and Diddy Kong Racing, but it faced consistent delays that led to Conker being added to Diddy Kong Racing, most likely as a means to promote his upcoming adventures. Eventually, the game's name would be changed to 12 Tales Conker 64, and was planned to release in October of 1998. However, Rare developers began to receive criticism for creating another innocent platformer starring cute and friendly animals. So, Rare decided to not only delay the game, but to go in a completely different direction with it. And thus, Conker's Bad Fur Day was born. I should also mention that Conker actually did receive a family-friendly game as well in Conker's Pocket Tales, which was meant to be a precursor to 12 Tales before it got repurposed. I don't really have much to say about this game. It actually was one of the games I had growing up, and I loved it back then, but I don't remember much about it now. And I never hear anyone talking about it today, so maybe it'll be something we visit another day. Conker did receive another game in 2005's Conker Live and Reloaded. This game was made after Microsoft's acquisition of Rare, and I never owned an Xbox, so I've never played it. But from what I understand, it was a remake of Bad Fur Day with a new multiplayer mode using Xbox Live. The reason I bring any of this up is so I can talk about this article Rare released. As Conker speaking in character a few months before the game came out, titled Behind the Scenes, an interview with Conker. And I'd like to direct your attention to this statement made by Conker in regards to the cast of Diddy Kong Racing. It goes without saying that you wouldn't catch me hanging out with any of those freaks these days. Last I heard, at least one of them was in jail anyway. We'll be coming back to that statement later, but first let's talk about the final character who managed to appear in another game after Diddy Kong Racing. Tip-Top the Turtle. Yep, out of all these characters, this is the last one who managed to appear outside Diddy Kong Racing. Unlike Banjo and Conker though, he didn't get an adventure of his own. All his appearances after Diddy Kong Racing were as an NPC in Banjo's games. First, it was as the orchestrator of the Tip-Top Choir, a little narcissistic, where he simply tasked Banjo and Kazooie to play a game of Simon Says. Then he appears in Banjo-Tooie, where he sad his 20th egg is months late to hatching. And after all his others hatched into girls, he really wants this one to be a boy. So Kazooie helps him hatch the egg. Congratulations, it's a boy, and we never see either of them again. Well, except in a cameo in Banjo Pilot, but I couldn't be bothered to get a video of that, so you'll just have to take my word for it. As for the kind of guy he is in Diddy Kong Racing, as stated in the instruction booklet, Tip-Top the Turtle is another member of the close group Animal Friends. But because of his nerves, and maybe even slightly clumsy nature, he's never been particularly fond of racing, that the others seem to like so much. Now though, he doesn't seem to have much a choice. So Tip-Top is a victim of peer pressure. So now that we've talked about all the characters who had appearances after Diddy Kong Racing, let's look back on what Conker said and let me ask, which one of these characters do you think went to prison? If you guessed Bumper the Badger, you're lying. I didn't give you enough time to guess. Bumper is described as, unlike most of his kind, Bumper the Badger prefers speed and thrills to a quiet nocturnal lifestyle. He gets even more worked up than his friends when he realizes how much racing and excitement will be involved in the crusade to get rid of Whiz Pig. Now you might be wondering, how did this little guy end up in serving jail time? Well, apparently part of the reason Rare started this gag was because he's so far down the list of old Rare characters with a chance of having a comeback, and simply because it, quote, sounded funny. On the bright side for the Badger, it was confirmed by Rare on October 6th, 2021, that he had been out of prison for some time now, and he's sorry for everything he did. What exactly did he do, you ask? Well, I'm not so sure. I couldn't find anything definitive, but most people are speculating public indecency. At the end of the day, it's just nice to know Rare still thinks about these characters every so often. Time to clarify on something I said earlier by talking about Crunch. If you remember, I said he's nobody's friend. But what exactly did I mean by this? Well, Crunch is a Kremling. You know, the enemies of Donkey Kong and the rest of the Kong family. So if that being the case, why is he racing to help Timber, who's friends with one of his arch enemies? Well, according to the instruction manual, Crunch was sent most likely by King K. Rool to spy on Diddy. And after seeing Diddy rush off to Timber Island, Crunch goes bounding after him to make sure that there aren't any anti-Kremling plots in the works. Which is reasonable, seeing as Diddy Kong blew up the Kremling's homeland in Donkey Kong Country 2. It's also noted that Diddy Kong, Timber, and everyone else don't trust him, which I can't really blame them for. The only other thing left to say about Crunch is that before Diddy was slapped onto the game, he was just a normal crocodile named Crash, who was here to fill the role of playable bad guy character, kind of like a Wario or Waluigi situation. But he was changed to being a Kremling to create an even stronger connection to the Donkey Kong series. As to why his name was changed, it's possible that it's because there was already a Kremling enemy named Crash, but I couldn't find a source that said that that was 100% accurate, so take that with a grain of salt. Next up, let's talk about Pipsy the Mouse. There's not really a whole lot to say about Pipsy. Her character was born out of yet another cancelled Rare game called Astro Mouse. After its cancellation, Rareware artist Kevin Bayless redesigned Astro Mouse's lead character. One redesign being this pink furred mouse, another being a yellow kangaroo with boxing gloves, and then settling on a yellow mouse who was then included in Diddy Kong Racing as Pipsy. She's the only female character in the game, at least prior to the DS remake, and after being evicted from her mountain home by Whiz Pig, joined the others campaign to kick him out. That's really all I got for Pipsy, so let's move on to our unlockable characters. Our first unlockable character is Drumstick. Drumstick is described as the champion racer of Timber Island. So when Whiz Pig first took over, Timber's first idea was to have Drumstick beat him in a race under the condition that if Drumstick won, Whiz Pig would leave. Drumstick agreed to the plan feeling confident in his skills, and well, nobody knows who won this race. But as time passed, Drumstick never returned, so Timber resorted to Plan B and called the rest of the cast for help. So what exactly happened to Drumstick? Well, if the player wins all the trophy races and collects 39 gold balloons, a frog with a rooster comb will randomly appear in the center area of Timber Island. Yeah, if it's not obvious Whiz Pig turned Drumstick into a frog, it's unknown if this happened because Drumstick lost the race he challenged Whiz Pig to, or if Whiz Pig just didn't accept the challenge and turned him into a frog instead. Personally, I like to think Drumstick won the race, and Whiz Pig, being a sore loser, turned him into a frog, and then said, "Yeah guys, I totally won that race he challenged me to that nobody witnessed." Anyway, in order to break the spell on Drumstick, you simply need to run him over with your car, which you'd think would kill him. But no, it just turns him back into a rooster. And you now have him as a playable character. Honestly, he is my favorite unlockable character in gaming simply because Rare added a whole backstory of a champion racer that's missing from your roster. It's something I wish more games would do. That's really all there is to say about Drumstick, so let's move on to the other unlockable character, TT. At first, TT, which stands for TikTok, before it was cool, is just wandering around the lobbies of each world's racetracks. If you talk to him, he'll show you your records on each of the tracks and allow you to turn on time trials. And if you manage to beat his record on each of the courses, he'll join you as a playable character. And he is easily the best character in the game, boasting far better stats than everyone else, which is something I maybe should have talked about more. All these characters do in fact have different stats affecting how they race. Unlocking Drumstick already gave you a character who has a slight edge over the others, only really lacking in his turning abilities and low acceleration. But once you learn the tracks, this is an easy weakness to overcome, allowing you to take advantage of his incredible top speed. But TT is just in a whole other league. I mean, just look at this monster. He's got a greater top speed than even Drumstick. His only flaw is his average turning, and even then, only 3 other characters are better than him at it. Weirdly enough, TT is the only character who has different stats when using a plane. His top speed is still impressive, but the hit he takes to acceleration really makes him one of the worst characters to use for plane races. I guess he never officially got his pilot's license or something. With that, we've covered every playable character in Diddy Kong Racing, but there are still some more characters I'd like to talk about. Starting with Taj the Genie. And yes, he is an elephant genie, whose last name is Genie. He lived up in the mountains like our mouse friend Pipsy, and just like her, he was evicted from his home and cut off from his lamp, due to the tyranny of WizPig. Taj serves as the tutorial guide, training you in the hopes that you'll become the champion racer to beat WizPig. And that's really it for Taj in terms of his role in the game, but it's actually speculated that Taj at one point was planned to be a playable character as well. The only evidence is this unused character select track. Every character has their own track that plays when you hover over them on the selection screen, and this unused track does fit his character, but as of now, it seems we haven't gotten an official answer. Although Taj would be added as a playable character in the DS remake, so at least he has that going for him. That covers all of the heroes of Diddy Kong Racing, but what about the villains? That's right, it's time to talk about the big bad bully himself, WizPig, who obviously is a wizard and a pig. A pig wizard. A WizPig, if you will. But did you also know that he's a world-conquering alien? Yeah, you heard that correctly. This pig is a madman who conquered his home planet simply because he got bored one day, turning it into a high-tech amusement park he dubbed Future Funland. But one day he grew bored again, so he decided to start conquering other planets. This led him to discovering the sport of racing, which alongside causing havoc became his favorite thing to do. This new hobby would eventually lead him to Timber Island, where he would then hypnotize the island guardians, turning them into his lackeys, who need to be beaten before you can challenge WizPig himself. Once WizPig is beaten and kicked off the island, which is something that's never happened before, everyone throws a party to celebrate. But WizPig, being a sore loser, ruins the party and starts shooting space lasers at them. Then he just dips. So Timber and friends head to Future Funland and challenge him to a race, this time on his turf. And after he loses, his rocket malfunctions, launching him into space, blows up, and WizPig, man, he dies. Okay, well, technically we can hear him laughing from his spaceship after the credits. But like I said, the sequel to this game got cancelled, so as of now, we can say he's dead. Sadly, if I'm being truthful, almost all of these characters are officially dead. Look no further than the 2007 DS remake for proof. Remember, Microsoft owns all these characters, except for Diddy and Crunch. And Nintendo naturally owns the rights to the original Diddy Kong Racing game code. So when Nintendo wanted to make the DS version of Diddy Kong Racing for its 10-year anniversary, they needed Microsoft's okay to include these characters. And since Microsoft has no interest in utilizing them, and had never entered the handheld gaming market, meaning this DS game wouldn't be directly competing with any of theirs, Microsoft allowed Rare developers to work on the DS remake. They did, however, need to replace Banjo and Conker, as they are the only 2 characters Microsoft received that they actually care about. These replacements being Diddy's girlfriend Dixie, who I'm sure I don't need to spend time talking about, and her little sister Tiny, who Nintendo requested to get redesigned for this game. This redesign would then be used for her appearance in every game she appeared in since. Some speculate this redesign was because she was Banjo's replacement, and they needed to change her height to match Banjo's, and well, I guess that's as good a reason as any. This DS remake is the last time we would ever see most of these characters, and that's kinda sad. They may not have been around for long, but there's no denying they left quite the impact. But it seems without having a direct connection to the Donkey Kong series, no one from Microsoft or Rare sees any use for them. But what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you guys think of these characters, and please share any info you may have about them that I missed in the comments. I'm sure there's plenty more to talk about, but for now, the best we can do is hope one day we'll get the chance to see them all back on the track where they belong. With that, all I have left to say is, love you, mean it, click. Thanks everyone for watching this video. Take this moment to hit like and subscribe for me. If I kept your attention this long, I'd say I've earned it. Plus, it's the best way to be updated on my shenanigans. And if you're looking for more entertainment, go ahead and check out my other videos, which should be up on screen by now. I'm sure you'll enjoy them too.